So, how does an entire country build an AI strategy basically from scratch? Today, we're going to tackle that massive question by breaking down Pakistan's ambitious new plan. We'll look at the blueprint, the risks, and where it fits in the global AI race. Let's dive in. It's easy to think of artificial intelligence as some kind of far-off, futuristic tech. But the truth is, it's already here, and it's reshaping, well, pretty much everything. Industries, economies, even our day-to-day lives. The impact is already huge, and we're just getting started.
Just look at healthcare. AI is already helping doctors predict diseases before they even happen. It's creating treatment plans tailored to your specific body, and it's making hospitals run way more efficiently. This isn't science fiction anymore. This is happening right now.
Okay, but there's a world of difference between having a powerful new technology and actually using it to benefit an entire country. So how do you cross that chasm? How do you get from a few cool apps to a nationwide transformation? Well, the answer is strategy. You need a national plan, a bridge that connects the lines of code to the needs of the country, turning all that technological promise into real-world results. And this is exactly where Pakistan's new policy comes into the picture. So that brings us to our case study. In mid-2025, Pakistan's government went all in, officially giving the green light to its national AI policy. It's a really bold move designed to carve out a spot for the country in the future of AI. Honestly, the best way to wrap your head around this whole policy is to think of it like building a house. The entire strategy rests on 4 essential pillars, and each one is absolutely critical to constructing the nation's AI future. First things first, you can't build a house without money. So Pillar 1 is all about financing. They created a national AI fund. You can think of this as the mortgage for the house. It's designed to be a permanent, stable source of cash that's ring-fenced, which is a fancy way of saying the money is protected and can't be spent on other things. And here's the really clever part, how they guarantee that money will always be there. The fund is legally guaranteed to get at least 30% of the entire national budget for tech R&D. This creates predictable, long-term funding, which is a huge signal to private investors that you're serious. Okay, so you've got the mortgage approved. Now, where are you going to actually build stuff? You need workshops, and that's Pillar 2, a whole network of centers of excellence. These are going to be the hubs where all the research, development, and training actually happens. And we're not talking about some dusty old university labs here. Nope, these centers are being set up in major cities specifically to connect academic research directly with businesses and startups. The goal is to turn good ideas into actual companies fast. Right. So you have money and you have workshops, but you can't build a house if you don't have a skilled crew. Pillar 3 is all about the people. This is a huge push to develop the talent, everything from just making the general public aware of AI to training a literal army of experts. And finally, you can't just build a house any way you feel like. You need a solid building code to make sure it's safe and up to standard. That's Pillar 4. It sets up the rules of the road, a whole framework for governance to make sure AI is developed responsibly and ethically. Now, a really cool part of this pillar is the idea of regulatory sandboxes. Think of it like a safe play area for innovators. It lets companies test out brand new AI ideas in the real world, but in a controlled environment where regulators can watch closely. It's a smart way to encourage progress while still having those all-important guardrails. So, on paper, the blueprint for this house looks fantastic. It's comprehensive, it seems to have all the right parts. But, and there's always a but, a beautiful architectural drawing is one thing. Actually building it in the real world, that's where the big risks pop up. Let's just break it down, pros and cons. On the plus side, you've got that predictable funding, a smart network of centers, and this focus on building trust from the get-go. But on the flip side, the risks are pretty serious. The rules for funding are still a bit vague, there's a massive potential bottleneck in training people, and there's a huge question mark around the core computing power needed to do any of this. Let's just zoom in on that people pillar for a second, because this is where it gets really wild. The headline goal here is to train 1 million people in AI skills. Think about that. That's a massive, nation-changing number. But here's the catch. To train 1 million students, you first need teachers, a lot of them. The plan calls for 10,000 master trainers by 2027. And that, right there, that's the bottleneck.
The entire plan for building up the workforce hinges on solving this one problem first. It's the biggest weak link in the chain. Of course, you have to remember that none of this is happening in a vacuum. There is a full-on AI race heating up in the region, and that context is absolutely crucial for understanding Pakistan's plan. And this chart? Well, this chart tells a huge part of the story. When we talk about compute power, just think of it as the raw horsepower, the engine of AI. Now look at India. They've put a hard number on it, over 10,000 of these powerful chips called GPUs. Pakistan's plan, on the other hand, just mentions upgraded infrastructure. In a race where you're measured by your engine size, that's a pretty significant gap. So when you look at the neighborhood, you see everyone's playing a slightly different game. Pakistan's big strength is that clever, sustainable funding model. India is just going for raw power with its massive compute investment, and China is all about regulatory clarity and control. For Pakistan, the real area to watch is whether they can get specific and lay out a real roadmap for their compute power.
At the end of the day, all of this, the plan, the risks, the competition, it all boils down to this one simple but powerful idea. The plan is only as good as the follow-through. The decisive factor is going to be delivery discipline. So how do you make sure you have that discipline? How do you turn a grand vision into something that actually gets done? Well, you need a clear, actionable roadmap with concrete, manageable steps. And here's what that could look like in the real world. A 3-phase plan. Phase 1, the first 6 months. Just get the rules right. Build that solid foundation. Phase 2, for the next year or so, build capacity. Buy the computers, and this is key, start training the trainers. Tackle that bottleneck head on. Then, and only then, in Phase 3, can you hit the accelerator and really start to scale things up across the whole country. Which brings us to our final critical question. The blueprint for the house exists, it's detailed, it's ambitious, but transforming that plan on paper into a real, standing structure, that takes focus, commitment, and relentless discipline, day after day. So the real question isn't just for Pakistan, but for any nation with these kinds of ambitions. Do they have what it takes to actually build their AI future, one single brick at a time?